Welcome to the Sleep for Side Hustlers podcast, where we help side hustlers and entrepreneurs level up their sleep using cutting edge sleep hacks, strategies, and tools to skyrocket their performance to new heights. Being a high performer side hustler is all about resting at 100% so you can execute at 100%. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. This episode is sponsored by Sleep for Side Hustlers. At Sleep for Side Hustlers, we help side hustle entrepreneurs, including rideshare drivers, food delivery drivers, Airbnb hosts, Etsy sellers, and other side gig workers to be more productive and make more money by transforming their sleep with our best-in-class individualized sleep training. Do you want to become a productivity machine, make genius business decisions, stop stress, build better relationships, and even ramp up your revenue? All you need is a good night's sleep. Visit www.sleepforsidehustlers.com to learn more. My guest today is Daniel Hill. He is an unconscious mind Zen coach and mentor that has been helping high performers achieve their sleep issues and emotional well-being since 2006. He's treated over 2,500 clients as an online video therapist and has over 350 videos on his YouTube channel. And he does this with unconscious tools such as EFT, NLP, hypnosis, and many more to help people address their sleep issues, which then boost his clients' subconscious energy, their clarity of mind, as well as emotional and psychological well-being. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Hi, Riley. Thank you. How's Canada today?
It's going pretty good. Yeah, sun's out today, not raining. We've had a lot of hot weather. It's been plus 40 degrees with the humidity where I am, Celsius. How about you?
Yeah, it's typical British summer. It's overcast and about 20 degrees Celsius. So
Overcast, okay.
We're used to it over here.
We're a little different over the ocean today. Okay, awesome. Well, I just wanted to give you a brief introduction how Daniel and I met, because Daniel is a very interesting guest. As all our listeners know, if they listen to the previous podcast, I explained a lot of my story of what it was of me having autoimmune disease. And I had to go through a lot of functional medicine doctors, spending tens of thousands of dollars on doctors. And along my journey, I found Daniel, and I became a client of his. And as a result, we started working together. And then I started to realize and learn how important the subconscious mind is with everything that's going on, and especially when it comes to your sleep. And sleep was one of the things that absolutely changed my health and ultimately my performance. And dealing with the subconscious mind was a massive, massive percentage of that. So I wanted to show our listeners, Daniel, of the amazing things that you do. And I wanted to bring you on the show. And we actually work together because Daniel has had such a great impact on my life. And the people that I've introduced him to have just experienced life-changing results. So I think Daniel is just such a gift to have on the show. So first, Daniel, what I wanted to do is just ask you a few questions and tell people a little bit more about you. But first thing I was curious about was really, how did you get started in all this with your own journey?
Well, firstly, thank you for that glowing introduction. I feel very humbled. Thank you very much. I got started because, like many people in this, they had their own issues. And I had a lot of anxiety throughout my life. And I'd had conventional therapy in order to be able to deal with that, counseling, psychotherapy. And it helped to some degree, but it hadn't really got to the core. And I knew I had to go deeper. There was a pull to go deeper.
Yeah.
And so my health had got really bad, and my sleep was absolutely atrocious. And I suffered with chronic anxiety and depression and autoimmune disease. And I began to read stories of books of amazing healing and recoveries from all different types of things.
Wow.
And I found one guy who had recovered from what I had been diagnosed with, which was chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia, which is an autoimmune disease. And I read it very, very quickly, which surprised me because it usually takes me a while to read. Even to this day, I'm not the strongest reader. But I was compelled, and I ended up going down to London, and I had some sessions with him. Couldn't do online sessions back in the day, or at least
Yeah.
you didn't. 2006.
Yeah.
Went down to London, met him after. It was an amazing experience, and whilst I was there, he was offering training to do what he was doing, and
Yeah.
it was a gut decision. And I was down there within 2 or 3 weeks, and I was training on the most prestigious medical street in Britain, which is Harley Street in London. If you want to pay privately for something, you go down to Harley Street, and the best people there are going to help you, and you're going to pay a small fortune for doing it. But that's what I was doing, and it led me to going deeper and deeper into the mind, more than just conventional talking, conscious therapy. I've done.
Wow, that's very, very fascinating. How you got into it, especially so long ago, 2006. So
15 years I've been doing this now. Yeah.
15 years now you've been doing this. Well, that's amazing. So out of everything that you had tried along your own journey, what do you find gave you the most traction and results?
I got into Tai Chi and meditation in 2000, and my teacher was a lovely lady who I still have a great amount of affection for to this day. And she practiced one technique on me back then, which is a technique called EFT, Emotional Freedom Techniques.
Okay, cool.
She'd learned it on a Thai beach and told me that it had cost a lot of money back then. It's evolved somewhat now, 20 years on. But she did some EFT on me, and I'd never had anything like that before. And I got a euphoric experience from it, because it was something that immediately made me feel calm. Whereas when I just talked about anxiety, or talked about a problem, or talked about the fact that I couldn't sleep, or talked about depression, it wasn't shifting it. And that's partly because talking is conscious, and we're talking, it's a conscious talking therapy.
Yeah.
But really issues come from an unconscious place. And the unconscious is significantly more powerful than the conscious mind. It's been said it might be 99% powerful, the unconscious mind, and the conscious mind just one. Other theories have said 90% unconscious and 10% conscious. But generally, you're not going to find it anything less than that. It is the most powerful thing. It's an incredible, powerful computer that runs us. We think we are running the show, but really the unconscious is running the show.
Yeah, so true.
So it was tapping EFT as well as the meditation. That was one thing that was helping to still my mind. And then there's something else that I do, which is I call myself an Enneagram mentor. And it's something that I've got an absolute passion for. And the Enneagram, I found my own personality type. Ennea means 9. Gram means graph. So it's a graph of 9 personality types. And it's significantly more than just that. But if we were going to look upon it in just simple terms, it's a way of deeply understanding yourself and finding your innermost neurosis. And where the adage says you're only as strong as your weakest link, it highlights your strengths and your weaknesses. And when our weaknesses are highlighted, we can then work on them. So traction and results, EFT, meditation, the Enneagram, that's a good three combo there.
Wow, that's so fascinating. And I know that you routinely say, and I catch myself saying it to people too, because you've engraved it in my mind over the years, is using unconscious tools on the unconscious mind. And that seems to be really what you've been doing throughout your journey, or at least what you gravitated towards in the beginning, and then just use more and more with clients that really just got them a lot of results. And did you find a lot of your clients were seeing traditional, maybe psychotherapists and talk therapy, find it wasn't doing too much, but once they started going more into their unconscious mind, that's really where they started getting true results?
Absolutely. I've had clients who've been through years of psychotherapy, and then they've come to see me, and they've said I've been able to resolve some things that they've been working on for a year, trying to talk about something in the hope of being able to make peace on it. And you can do something like EFT and go to a deeply core issue and treat it at an unconscious level on the unconscious mind. Well, I say they're unconscious tools on the unconscious mind that you're using at an unconscious level. So it ends up being like a knife through butter sometimes. Or another
Yeah.
metaphor would be, they talk about the unconscious being like an iceberg and the conscious being the top that we can see. Well,
Yeah.
this kind of work can end up being like you end up putting dynamite in the iceberg and blowing it to pieces, and
Yeah.
then also you end up warming up the waters, so it ends up melting. So the issues that you've got
Yeah.
begin to melt away. It's really that profound.
That's fascinating. It's almost like your brain is this operating system, or you can think of it as like your hard drive that has scratches on them. And when you address the unconscious mind, you're almost taking the scratch or removing those viruses from the computer. And it can go as far back from our childhood as even before we can remember. And as people are bringing stuff up to the surface that they don't even realize that are running a lot of their unconscious mind, but also their behaviors in their day to day. Even when they get stressed about certain things, I think during the day, and they don't know where it comes from, or maybe they feel unhappy and they're not sure where that unhappiness comes from, but it could be stemming a lot of the time from the unconscious mind, even though it doesn't consciously make sense. Have you found that with a lot of people?
100%,
Yeah.
completely. Yeah, it's so hard to be able to articulate how powerful the unconscious is. It
Yeah.
does so many things for us. Like, we don't get it to beat the heart. We don't get it to blink the eyes. We're not adjusting the temperature
Yeah.
inside of us. We're
Right.
not growing our own hair. We're not having to think about that. We're not
Yeah.
having to think about breathing. It
Mhm.
does so many things for us.
Right.
And our unconscious mind has downloaded so much information throughout our life, and it starts at conception, really, because we're going to download a whole load of information in the womb. The first 3 years of your life are incredibly powerful and influential. And then there's a next period, which you could say from 3 to 7, maybe 7 to 11, 12. It's been said that actually, as human beings, we don't develop consciousness until about the age of 12. So up until that point, you are a massive sponge, and your unconscious mind is going to be downloading lots of information about yourself and the world. And what generally happens with human beings is that those beliefs that we have created about ourselves and the world through the experiences that we've gone through are then there throughout life, unless we want to work on them. And this is why classical therapy goes back to sort of, tell me about your childhood, what happened back there. Well, that's talking about something that's deeply unconscious. And it is effective, but it's very slow, I find, and I wasn't drawn to doing that. I think you can do profound work using what I've got qualified in. People recover from serious disease using these things.
Wow.
You don't tend to go with to a counselor or a psychotherapist with like a serious disease in the hope that you can get better. But if you do your research, you'll find that people have healed of all different types of deeply awful conditions that people have manifested that's stemming from the unconscious. I mean, a classic one that comes to mind that I quote a lot of the time was when I was in my training in 2006. There was a double-page spread in what's called the Daily Mail, which is like middle-class newspaper in Britain. And it was a man who'd hid himself with multiple sclerosis.
Wow.
And it didn't sound believable to me. And he was using a number of tools, a number of things. They'd taken 7 years, or was it 8 years? His name's Dermot O'Connor. He wrote a book called The Healing Code. And one of the things in the book was using tapping, which is EFT. He was using TFT, but it's effectively the same. And that section of the book was about mastering your emotional well-being. And there was another part which was about it was really crazy. It said, when I read it, I thought it was crazy. It said, is your mind ready to be well? That's a lot to do with NLP, and it's something that I do, but which stands for neuro-linguistic programming. But it's thinking yourself to an outcome that you wish to experience.
Got it.
And so like I bought the book, and one of the things in that book was, you write a well-informed outcome. So it was writing my recovery story.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't recovered. But by stating that you're programming your unconscious mind to the manifestation of that wish, because the mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's not real.
Right.
We have to punch into, like, if you were gonna, it's like a bit like going into the Google part of your brain, and you Google for an answer. But if you state it in the positive, it has to look for the positive and find it. Won't necessarily find it straight away.
Yeah.
But you can program your mind to create the reality that you wish to experience by conditioning yourself. And that was one important factor. Along with that and tapping, I was like, this doesn't seem real, that people can recover from these things. And it's not that it's easy. I mean, it still took him 8 years, but that's an incredible thing. He was working in the bank in London, earning quite good money, and he had a complete life change, and he's become an acupuncturist and gone back to his native island. So he's got more peace and ease in his life, but he doesn't suffer with multiple sclerosis anymore. And
doesn't suffer with it anymore.
No.
Wow.
No, but equally, he's not on a soapbox saying, hey, everybody, you can recover from multiple sclerosis. He is more about the creation of health.
Yes.
And so the energy and the focus is about health.
Yes.
So that it's not on disease. It's the same. This is about sleep. What's the opposite of insomnia? What's the opposite of struggling to get to sleep? And we know all of the issues that manifest from that. What's the opposite of that?
That's just it. And that's when you're fully awake, you're having high amounts of performance and productivity, and you're able to accomplish things in a much more effortless way, where you may not need caffeine, coffee, and these stimulants to try and get you ahead, where a lot of people are digging their biology, but also their mind deeper and deeper down into the rabbit hole. So honestly, what you just said there was so fascinating. There's so many good nuggets you can definitely take out of that. And it's empowering and inspiring too, that there's things you can do about it. Always check with your doctor, but it's just good to know that where things potentially have side effects that may not work for you, there's an alternative way that you can go about doing things. And all it takes sometimes is just a little bit of research. So there's a really extreme end, sort of my story with autoimmune disease, what you have experienced, people recovering from MS and things like that. How about your clients over the years who, let's say, are just looking for more of a functional thing, where they think maybe their sleep could be improved a little bit. They haven't suffered from any traumatic experience, or let's say a major health issue for years at a time. Let's just say within their professional and personal life, has it been really helpful what you've been able to do for these kinds of people?
Absolutely. It's life changing. It's why I do what I do. I'm so passionate about it. The people with sleep issues, there tends to be two things going on, I would say. The first is there's going to be a lot of stress in their life.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of responsibility. It may be to do with work. You're gearing your work towards very high functioning individuals, and I take those clients on. They're running, they're CEOs, they're running hospitals, chief of police, they're doing all different types of things, and there's usually a lot of responsibility. So the mind, when it's going to rest and going to, all right, I'm going to go to sleep now, the mind's still ticking over, because it's thinking about the next day and maybe even the next week and what needs to be done in the next 6 months. So there's that, but it'll always be a mix of that. And someone doesn't have to have had trauma to and when I'm talking about trauma, I'm talking about the typical things that people think trauma comes from, like accidents or rapes or being beaten up or something like that. I mean, we can all get traumatized really when we're growing up to some degree, even like when your father ignores you because he's got to stay at work late one night, and as a child you kind of internalize that and think, oh well, that means that dad doesn't really love me, dad doesn't want to spend any time with me. Might not mean that at all. It means that dad's got to work late, because if he doesn't work late, he's going to lose his job then the mortgage won't get paid and won't have a roof over your head and bloody, 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 blah.
Yes.
So, but we all have this stuff, and the mind interprets what's happening based on the past. So there's something from NLP that says the map is not the territory. Well, the map is what we've been through in our past. And so we imagine that that's how life is going to be in the future, but it's not. It's just we get caught into these patterns and ways of thinking because that's how we've been thinking in order to survive throughout our lifetime.
Right.
When someone's in a place where you're talking about they're struggling with sleep and that's affecting every aspect of their life, they're going to have what you'd call limiting beliefs. Not massive, but they're going to be limiting on some level. And there's also going to be what I call limited belief conditioning. Okay. And that comes from our childhoods, that comes from our life. So these all cause us to go into the fight, flight, or freeze response, where we are in alert for danger. We're not deeply relaxed, where we can let go and sleep, and we're going to wake up refreshed. Oh, the mind's on alert because this might happen, and that might happen, and that might happen, and we need to be on top of that and top of that. And so I get clients who will often say, it's like, I cannot drop a ball. I cannot, I'm spinning plates all of the time.
Interesting.
So this mind is having to be on alert. It can't relax. The paradox is, if you did relax, right, and you could let go, and you could deeply fall asleep, you'll be much more resourceful to be able to deal with what needs to get done the next day or the next week or the next month. Yeah. But what the mind does instead is be on this kind of heightened state of alert, which is actually the antithesis of what we actually really need. We need to be relaxed when we're not working so we can recharge, and which you get through deep REM sleep.
That's amazing, Daniel. And it seems like you've been able to help people and really transform their lives, and all different kinds of people who are CEOs, people who are just trying to perform a little bit better so they can optimize their day to day. And I think that's amazing that taking this really unconscious approach can really short track your journey to success that much faster. Because I know it did for myself. How about for yourself? What are your daily rituals? What do they look like?
I love nature. I think that's an incredibly important thing. I learned that a long time ago, really, as a child, that it helped to calm me, so that I daily get into nature. Meditation, I still do. I listen to something called binaural beats. So I meditated this morning for, I said to you before we started the call, for 2 hours. I woke up at 6 and I meditated for 2 hours. Wow. And it's just something that gives me being. I feel better for it. There's it's like, why do we work out? I do exercise as well. I've been on the cross trainer as well today. But I do things to still my mind. I talked about the Enneagram earlier. Well, I'm an Enneagram type 6. The neurosis with the 6 is worst case scenario thinking. Okay. And they have they're bang in the middle of the need for security, and they tend to think a lot. So we all think, but the Enneatype 6 mind needs to learn to be still.
Got it.
And so anything that will help me to be still in my mind has enormous benefits in every aspect of my life from that. So it's the stemming point. It's the thing that I need to do that will then make everything else better. What we tend to do, and I talk about, we all have what I call a want, get, be mind. So this mind's wanting, because when it gets, then it can be, then it can do things. And we're all in this want, get, be mind because we live in this world. It's full of egos, and the ego helps us to survive. But when do we actually get that being? I want, because when I get, then I can be. I can't be. So we don't, because it's chasing the next thing. We live in a modern world, and if this goes out and this is being heard by very high functioning individuals that are running organizations and doing thousands of things in a day. It's the mind is going to be challenged constantly when because there's another won't get B to sort out.
Right.
Life is about dealing with challenges and problems, and you know what you could say, well, the ultimate thing would be when we finally solve all of the problems, solve all of the challenges. Well, it's impossible because life is full of challenge. You could retire. I've met people who've retired and thinking that, you know, that was going to be it. They made a whole load of money. And now the challenge is, what the hell am I going to do with my life? That can bring sleep issues because they don't know what to do. And I know health-wise, it's good to keep working. I've known a number of people who have actually passed away early by retiring so early. So it's good to have balance, and those people, will struggle by not having a center point, a place of being. And so the more that you can create that and bring that into your day, you take that through your day. So as opposed to I want because when I get, then I can be, creating being now, despite the challenges of the day ahead, despite the challenges within the work life, the family life, the relationship, the children, oh dear, you know, there's always something, but instead you have that being now. So my day involves a lot of the creation of being, and then I can take that into my work. That's essential because the work that I'm doing, I'm working with people who are in states of wanting. So it's good for me to be in states of being.
Wow. Fascinating, Daniel. Always learn new things from you each time we talk. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners have learned a lot as well. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you would like to learn more or get in touch with Daniel or I, please visit www.sleepforsidehustlers.com. Have a great day.